Alright, friends. Before we dive deep into the history of one of the most iconic pieces of hardware in the world, do me a favor. If you love stories where precision becomes art and reliability becomes a religion, hit subscribe and that notification bell. Your comment at the end about what you think of this legend is priceless to me. Now, get comfortable. We're in for a long, captivating journey to the heart of Switzerland, where a weapon that became the standard was born. Let's go. When I think of Switzerland, that perfect, almost postcard-perfect image immediately comes to mind. Pristine alpine meadows, chocolate, watches passed down through generations, and banks holding the secrets of the entire world. A country that seems stuck in an eternal, peaceful Groundhog Day. But that's only one side of the coin. The most paradoxical and therefore incredibly cool side. Because the Real Switzerland is a country that, for over 300 years now, has held a piece of delicious cheese in one hand and a perfectly lubricated, flawlessly fitted rifle in the other. Their neutrality isn't fluffy and pacifist. It's ironclad and armed to the teeth. And that's the key to understanding everything created there. Imagine a country that lived through 2 world wars in the 20th century literally on its doorstep, not only endured, it prospered, honing its craft in the silence of its factories and laboratories. It's as if your neighbor, living in the heart of a noisy, dangerous neighborhood, grew the rarest orchids on his balcony and assembled chronometers that NASA uses to set time. This atmosphere, this fusion of absolute calm, bordering on detachment, and readiness to fight back at any moment, gave birth to the very spirit that was embodied in the object of our admiration, the SIG P210 pistol. To understand the scale of this phenomenon, let's rewind time a bit. Swiss mercenaries are a legend of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the best infantry in Europe. They were valued for their discipline, incredible resilience, and that famous, legendary marksmanship. The Vatican Guard, that's not just a beautiful tradition in colorful uniforms. It's a living reminder that once upon a time, the Swiss fought for everyone and anyone, refining warfare to the level of high art. And this centuries-old culture of shooting, this respect for weapons as a tool of mastery, not just a means of destruction, is deeply embedded in the national code. When, in the 1940s of the last century, the Swiss army set about searching for a new service pistol, they didn't approach it as simply purchasing hardware. They were looking for a continuation of their tradition. They didn't just need a pistol. They needed a shooter, a tool that would turn a soldier into a virtuoso. And this was against the backdrop of World War II, when the whole world was stamping out weapons by the millions, where speed, cheapness, and manufacturability were paramount. And Switzerland, in its alpine seclusion, was thinking about grouping at 50 meters. That's the pinnacle of skill. Its snobbery raised to genius. And then SIG enters the scene, Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft, the Swiss Industrial Society. That name in the world of firearms sounds like Paganini in the world of music. And their answer was a pistol based on the developments of the brilliant Charles Petter, a former captain in the French Foreign Legion. Can you imagine this symbiosis? Swiss precision and pedantry, merged with the combat experience and ingenuity of a French legionnaire. It's as if Rolex and Ferrari teamed up to create a single product. The design was finalized on-site by Max Muller, and as a result, the world was presented with a marvel under the dry army designation Ordnanzpistole 49, and later the legendary P210. And now, friends, let's start breaking down why this Swiss patrician, among pistols, still drives collectors and shooters crazy. First, it's the cult of accuracy elevated to an absolute. The designers at SIG didn't just make a pistol. They created a mechanical poem. Long, infinitely long slide rails that travel along the frame. That was their signature feature. It's as if, instead of regular drawer slides, you used perfectly polished rails from a high-speed train. The slide action on the P210 isn't a sound. It's a whisper. Smooth, silky, without the slightest hint of misalignment or play. Why? Because SIG factories could afford to specify minimal, almost jewelry-like tolerances on the blueprints. They didn't skimp on steel, didn't skimp on machining time. Every part was fitted, if not by hand, then with a level of control bordering on art. The second point, the trigger. Oh, that famous two-stage trigger of the P210. The first stage, a free light take-up. And then begins the so-called glass rod. The purest movement, without the slightest hint of grit or creep. You don't feel any steps, any extraneous friction. Only smooth, increasing resistance, and at the moment when you're already mentally prepared for the shot, it happens. By itself. Without your participation. As if the pistol is reading your mind. It's a trigger that doesn't spoil the shot. It perfects it. And you know what's most ironic? The patent for this trigger mechanism design belonged to Petter. But historians and ballistic experts often note with a smirk that the first to use something similar was our own Soviet Fyodor Vasilyevich Tokarev in his TT. That's a curious twist in world firearms history. Now about the magazine. That's a separate philosophy. When the whole world was chasing capacity, the Swiss said, 8 rounds of 9x19mm parabellum is enough for us. But we don't want our shooter to drop the magazine in the heat of battle or just by accident. Therefore, the magazine release on the early P210S was at the bottom, at the base of the grip. To release it, you had to perform a deliberate action. Pull down that lever. No accidental presses with the thumb. Reload speed was sacrificed for reliability and the confidence that the magazine was secure. It's a typical Swiss solution, conservative, smart, thought out for decades ahead. Later, under market pressure, they did make a classic button release. But the very idea speaks volumes. And, of course, shooting. People who have shot the P210 describe it almost as a mystical experience. Recoil. What recoil? It's a soft, dense push that immediately returns the barrel to the line of sight. The accuracy is simply insane. Remember, I mentioned the 50-meter factory test firing distance? That's not a metaphor. It's the actual distance at which this pistol groups shots in a way many modern pistols can't match even at 25 meters. It's not made for area shooting. It's made to put one bullet on top of another. It's a sniper rifle packaged into pistol dimensions. And now, as promised, let's delve into some details that make this legend even more comprehensive. The P210 model line is a whole universe. There was the basic P210-1 for the Army. There was the P210-2 with an adjustable rear sight for the police. But the pinnacle, the apotheosis of the classic line development was the P210-6 model, especially in the HF heavy frame version with a weighted frame. This was practically a target sports pistol, a weapon for victories at the highest levels of competition. Its production in Switzerland continued until 2006. Imagine. A pistol designed right after the war remained relevant and in demand into the new millennium. It's as if a car from 1947 still won Formula One races today. But that's not the end. In 2010, SIG Sauer, which by then had already become an international concern, made a bold move. It resurrected the legend, introducing the P210 Legend model. This wasn't just a remake. It was a tribute, made using modern machinery but preserving that same old-school essence. And yes, the price matched the status. An MSRP of $2,642 for the target version speaks for itself. But what's amazing, even old, genuine Swiss P210S at auctions rarely go for less than $1,000, often fetching much higher sums. They don't depreciate, they appreciate, because this isn't just a weapon. It's an investment in history, in quality that will never be repeated. In conclusion, I want to say this. The SIG P210 is more than a pistol. It's the philosopher's stone of the firearms world. It's proof that in an era of mass production and compromises, you can create something without compromises. Something that works not because it has to, but because it can't not work. It's Swiss neutrality cast in steel. Unyielding, self-assured, impeccable. It didn't try to conquer the world like the Colt or Glock. It simply stood aside, demonstrating a standard others couldn't reach. Friends, if this story resonated with you, if you feel the same awe for brilliant engineering thought, let me know in the comments. Right, would you like to hold such a legend in your hands? Or maybe you've been lucky enough to shoot one. Your stories are priceless. And of course, if you're not with us yet, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell. We have many more stories about the most amazing, precise, and beautiful weapons in the world ahead. Thanks for being with us. See you in the next video.